Good morning, coaches and health and wellness professionals. We are kicking off Monday talking about some motivation, simplicity for creating your signature process and your signature system, and of course, answering a question by one of our group members in our free group, which is how to niche your health coach biz. And so I wanted to kick this off and answer this question for Nolan, because this question has been coming up in personal messages, DMs, questions from people in customer support. And I thought it's a really great one. So let me just read to you exactly what he's saying. Hi, Rachel. Wish I found your resource a year and a half ago. Funny, I was speaking with a friend who is a marketer last week, and he sent me DFY materials in the fitness space. And we talked about anyone doing a detox. So right there, from me even reading this, similar to when somebody is doing a clarity session with me about what content to buy, right away, I know that detox is a really important pillar for him. And I'm going to really detail in this how simple it is to create your pillars, which is the next step after you define your niche, but most importantly, to create your signature process, because each one of you have a very distinct and different story. And what happens is I see a lot of coaches not make the connections within their signature process, free and paid. So then they don't convert as well. And furthermore, we as coaches don't feel as confident as we should, because we feel like we're just saying what everyone else is saying. You are not just saying what everyone else is saying, but you know that, and that needs to translate actually into the offers. So he said, I've been coaching a while, ready to really get things moving. We all know we're in that place. And the next is, I've been coaching for a little, ready to get things going more and focus on who I'm talking to. So this is our ideal client. We can all put up challenges. We can do on-demand workshops, webinars. We can build groups. We can follow what every different, business guru says, marketing guru. But at the end of the day, we need to know, how do we best show up for our ideal client? And how do we, on the attraction phase, which is where somebody's seeing us from the digital marketing space, whether it's your Instagram account or it's your Facebook business page, or maybe it's LinkedIn, Pinterest, YouTube, that is where people see you. You catch their attention because you're speaking to their specific pain points. You're making these connections that other experts or people in your niche are not making, because that is your unique, not only story, but that is your unique signature process, which brings me to, of course, what he says right away in the next. I'm all about foundations and detox like you. For some of you, maybe you don't know, I graduated from the Institute for Integrative Nutrition back in 2010. It was at the beginning of a recession. So if I understand psychology of buyer, I'm definitely the chick that you want to say, wow, Rach, you built a business, in a time where people were a little wary about what they were spending. Secondly, a big connection for me, because I had done a lot of gut protocols. I had seen specialists. I had done functional medicine testing. I had been diagnosed with an ulcer at 14, asthma to the point of life support twice, colitis, ulcerative colitis, the list goes on. Just like your list goes on with all these things that have happened, or that have happened to your children, family members, or you're a caretaker, or you're, a nurse, a chiropractor, etc. So when you think about this next part that I'm going to explain very clearly, I want you right now in your head to say, what are the things that I really need to teach in my signature system that is different from everyone else? If everyone talks detox, for me, that was a really important part, because I made the connection. Gut is not going to get better unless there's toxins reduced in the body. And so that became a huge pillar and a connection for me explaining digestive health, the adrenal connection, the skin connection, the anxiety connection, the food and mood connection, the autoimmune flare connection, the also answer to everyone's biggest objection. Well, I've worked with people before. No, I know you've worked with people before, and I did too. And the reason I've developed my entire business to focus on gut health, food allergies and intolerances, and to focus on autoimmune flares, early spectrum intervention, is because I wish that I would have understood how much toxins play a role, how much self-care, and really being able to go into why you teach what you teach, helping your ideal client to make these connections. Because one of the biggest disconnections I see, I know when you get on a call with me or if I'm interviewing a coach, I know exactly what you're saying, but I'm a coach. We have to really think, just like the old school marketing strategies and techniques, is talk to your ideal client like they are a 4-year-old. You need to make it that specific and that detailed, because you have a matter of seconds to get somebody's attention. So if they're not understanding, oh, wow, this person's like totally different. Look at all these connections. I didn't realize that lower back pain that I thought was just, came around my period also is connected to a possible viral issues. Also could be connected to maybe even a strep component of, kidneys. Maybe I need to start talking about urinary tract infections, go into maybe my own story of all of the not just symptoms and problems, but how it affected my life. And so when you're thinking about creating your signature process, also take the time to dive into your own experiences. Do your market research, ask people, I'm looking to do market research with people who have these core kind of problems. Some of the things that are common that come up for somebody with these problems are the following 10 issues. And start making these connections, as I said, for my ideal client, that maybe my ideal client didn't know that heavy metals in the body would create chronic yeast infections, fungus, all these, well, not fungus, but candida in the body, because the body was actually producing the candida to protect the organs from not having the metals affect them. I was able to make that connection. And of course, I brought that into my signature system, talking about why we don't get better. So let me just answer, of course, Nolan's question. Hey, thank you for the birthday wishes. For those of you who are not seeing the comments, somebody just wished me birthday. 46, whoop, whoop, going in to this year like a baller and a boss babe. So Nolan says, I'm all about foundations and detox like you. I shared with you, I know that was about 3 minutes, but I wanted to share with you how I got to the place of saying detox is this big connector. I was, of course, influenced, and please think right now, who are you influenced by? I was influenced by, of course, the books that I bought when I was in the throes of my sickness. So it was Paul Pitchford, Healing with Whole Foods. I now have my second version because that was my Bible. Anne Louise Gittleman was a big influence. She talked about seasonal eating. I bought that book when I was 27. There were other people like Alejandro Younger, Josh Axe, who I remember talking to him, on the phone many years ago, talking about the H. pylori that I struggled with and the same kind of issues that his mom did and why that was his why. I've followed so many different people similar to you in your own journey. That's how I developed my signature process. Signature process doesn't just come because I love hearing this. Oh, my business coach told me that weight loss is an easy niche, so I should do that. I'm like, can you not listen to what somebody thinks? I want you to have a profitable niche, but I also want you to carve that path and, define what your signature process is is based on like your why, and also based on what you wish you would have known, and of course in relation to this problem you're solving. Of course, you going, oh, well, I, did XYZ, but maybe it's not relevant to your ideal client right now and the exact problems you solve. Well, then that's going to be just a topic that you talk about. It's not going to be part of your signature process. So, Nolan said, my story has to do with gut problems. Right away, if somebody is speaking to me or I'm working with somebody one-on-one, which is kind of more of a rarity these days because I just don't work with as many people one-on-one, but I'm going to show you exactly what I do in this process to make it super easy for you to understand how to connect all of these dots. And then I'm going to actually show you very shortly just how you can, of course, use the programs to fill in this signature process, hence having your free offers mirror what your paid offers are, knowing that you need to have free offers in different formats to test what is the highest engaging, of course, topic and title, and what does your person who has gut problems, inflammation, fatigue, insomnia, kidney issues. Now, of course, we're not going to claim on a kidney issue, but I know for myself, kidney filtration is a really difficult thing. And I also come from a family where there were kidney stones for males. So that's a huge part of my story. See it right there. It's not that I specialize in kidney, but that's the part of the detoxification. That's the part for my ideal client that has genetic mutations such as A1298C, MTHFR, BHMT. There's a lot of different reasons, or the NOS, like I have, that makes somebody maybe not detoxify as well and filter. That does not have to be part of your signature process. That's part of mine because this was my trial and tribulation. This was the hero journey. This was for any of you who, and I hope that you listen to this book or read it by Donald Miller. This is the story that you're telling about why you created your signature process, the why of your workshops, the why of your freebies, the why of your offers. When you are clear on this, you will be unstoppable. I promise, whether you're building organically or you're building with paid ads. So how can we connect this? I'm going to show you. Do this exercise. For those of you who are listening to this right now, I'm holding up just an envelope that, of course, I'm writing these little boxes. I do this in my membership. We talk a lot about pillars. It's almost impossible to have viral content that's speaking to your ideal client and showcasing your signature process free. Your free offers are the baby steps leading to either that one-on-one call, leading to a nurture email sequence. But guess what? They have to see on the free and the awareness part, these really cool topics of how you're making connections so that they understand your paid offers, hence further enhancing your conversion rate. Secondly, further helping you to be able to know your downsell offers if you're on a discovery call, or maybe you're even on an interview or you're on a workshop, webinar that you're closing. You have to know why it makes sense. So you're going to take out an envelope. I'm going to put right here gut, because that's a big issue. That was in the first line. My story has to do with gut problems, inflammation, fatigue, insomnia. So I'm going to say gut, detox, and then I'm going to really look at what I feel from what he's saying would be another, of course, part. Nolan is saying, I'm having a hard time just picking something. What do you think about below? If I want to go with, I work with aspiring health enthusiasts who are ready to balance life and self-care. Well, no, Nolan, that's why we're doing this today. So you can get super clear, because I can feel this from the comment that he posted in our free group. I can feel the clarity because he really knows what problems not only he had, but what he envisions. We're just having a part where we're having a tough time connecting it to this is what I do. And when we make that connection, we step into a place of ownership and confidence with our programs. So let's go into the next. We're not going to just say balance life and self-care. Everyone says that. And also in thinking about that, when you think about self-care, I want you, if that is like a huge pillar, huge part of your signature process, think about what the self-care involves. So this is a bucket, a pillar, self-care, the mindset. So we have gut, detox, self-care, and the mindset. What falls within each one of these? I'm going to make one more pillar so that we're super clear. Gut and adrenal fatigue. How would I sub-niche? Gut and adrenal fatigue, where I was thinking about just going with gut health and adrenal. What do you think? And then he just shared a great comment that a client had sent to him. But for today, of course, with this training, I want to go over how can he make this connection? Chronic fatigue. So right from just this one detailed message, and that's why I also love when we take this time to do this work, because this is the harder stuff. A lot of busy work is required. Getting a blog out, newsletter, pitching, having a pitch day, building your referral network, getting your freebies, authority. But this is the harder work that often makes us feel that we don't have clarity. You saw from Nolan, we have tons of clarity. We just don't know how to now position this as a signature system in our process. So I have in these 4 boxes, for those of you who are seeing my notepad today, which is an envelope, a back of a bill. It says gut, detox, self-care, adrenal, and chronic fatigue. What I'm going to do in the next training, of course, is to break this down really specifically on how many different topics are within each pillar. Right here, I can think of about 20 in gut easily, 20 in detox, 20 in self-care, 20 in adrenal and chronic fatigue. And I'll just give you an example of 2 for each for right now's purpose so that I don't make this an extremely long training on our Monday motivation. Simplifying this process. For gut, this right here could be food allergies and intolerances. This could be autoimmune. This could be fatigue, brain fog. I just gave, I think, about 4 or 5. Skin rashes. Detox could also be if Nolan believes in seasonal eating, or if it's more of like the self-care detox practices, castor oil pack, essential oils, salt lamp, diffuser, detox foods, detox drinks. We can go on and on, like chaga, getting really specific on what does your detox look like? How is the experiences and what you want to teach, how can you showcase that? Is it something like looking at Detox Your Body in 15 minutes from at yourhealthcoachbiz.com, because you want to show people it's easy to detox. That was my signature workshop because I knew detox was scary. I knew the objections for somebody because I tested it enough on my freebies and I asked people, does this feel scary? And I heard a lot, as we all do, I don't have time for this. Truth is, guys, no matter what niche you're in, everyone is always going to say it's going to be a financial objection or I don't have time. Our job, even if you're working brick and mortar, offline, online, our job is to help our ideal client make those connections to see the possibility. So, so we're going to look at gut, detox, self-care. That's the mindset part, which of course ties into each one of these, meaning the self-care and the mindset part that the parts that I would, of course, look at, that would be maybe like that adrenal fatigue personality. I would really talk about the self-care and mindset for a high standard person, for a person with perfectionist issues. It's one of the reasons that I put together the How to End Perfectionism PowerPoint, because I feel this is such a huge part of dysbiosis and so many health issues, because that's also the same kind of persona of a gut person, of your chronic fatigue person, of the high stress, high achiever, or perfectionist, or shamer, the person who just always feels that they're not doing it right. There's like massive shame. That's a lot of that chronic fatigue personality. So in the fourth bucket, I said adrenal and chronic fatigue. The reason I say those two words is I like to, within a pillar, think, well, for the person who knows they're diagnosed, that's adrenal. For the person who may have been myself and many of you, you were Googling what? Chronic fatigue. Why am I constantly tired? And you came up on 100 million searches, no joke, of defining aspects of chronic fatigue. And it pretty much defined almost every symptom that anyone could have. That's why chronic fatigue is such, as we all know, a mystery kind of illness. We have to see what is at the root of the chronic fatigue. Then you may go to somebody and they diagnosed you, or maybe you have a client that is like yourself. They start researching, and they find books like Dr. Lamb and Dr. Wilson. That was my experience. So I always would share for the person who maybe didn't even know they had chronic fatigue issues. Maybe they're in the infancy of saying, you know, something isn't right. And they're being told, oh, that's just in your head. Like, it just happens when you're like 35, happens when you're 40. I want you to think within each one of these pillars that will define what you offer. How your ideal client, what obstacles are they having, and what are the things that they're being told that is either misinformation, misdirection, so that you can step into the shoes of your ideal client. So that when you're attracting your ideal client, you start saying, oh my God, Rach, I totally see why this content is relevant, because this will allow me to really talk about these key aspects and make these connections. Homework for any of you who want to do it, I hope you do it, is make your different boxes. We, of course, will go next Monday, and I'm going to show you how to simplify this so that you know what are your talking points on social media, or even if you are talking on a podcast, so that you have a really cohesive clarity and message around who you serve. Why are you that best professional to work with? Hands down. Because when you own your process, when you own these steps, then every freebie, everything that comes out of your mouth, every paid offer, it's relevant for your ideal client. Give me 1 second to actually go into Dropbox and share with you, because this is, I know, going to be really important and really relevant. Because you guys have seen me do this, especially for any of you who haven't signed up for the 7 ways to boost your immune little mini course, plus like little mini course on this. Drop below if you don't know where the link is, because I go through this step by step in that process. So we're going to go back to our boxes. I'm going to first look at, okay, if I'm connecting gut, detox, self-care, adrenal fatigue, I love quizzes. So I just think quizzes give us a lot of options. Quizzes give us a lot of options. It also allows us, as the health and wellness professional, where we often go into thinking paralysis, to actually be able to have the content and then say, wow, how can I use this to ask key open-ended questions to my ideal client? How can I use this quiz in a group, at a class, in a master class when I'm asking it questions, even on your discovery call, pre-qualification questions, or even a direct link on any social media, like take this quiz. We all see these are trending. Everyone is doing it. So they're doing it not because it's a fad, but because it gets people to start making connections when they're taking that test. So we could look at, of course, two. I could say that we could look at the chronic fatigue protocol, look at the quiz, be able to use the quiz for a freebie, or maybe for me, I would take this quiz and combine it with a lab reference sheet. I would add to, of course, the information on this. I would maybe even get a little more specific. Like, do you have prolonged fatigue after exercises? Maybe even do a little drop down, like, what does your exercise look like? So that I can really get a sense of my ideal client. Do you often feel confused? When did this start? Is this something that's been in your family? So that you can really feed off of each of these questions. And that's a great freebie. You could, of course, also look at this lab reference sheet and make the connection for your client. Say, hey, you're going to get, these 3 emails from me. Email number 1 is going to be a quiz. Once you complete this, you're going to have a video from me talking about these missing elements of what I wish I would have known when I was struggling with this chronic fatigue, also known as adrenal fatigue. And talk about how often these tests are not part of what we actually get told. That's what we do, is we lessen that overwhelm, because our clients, of course, are overwhelmed. They're trying to figure out what's real and not real. Where do I get this test? They go through the trials and tribulations that many of us still do, trying to get somebody to understand the root causes and look at the big picture. So for me, I would either look at the chronic fatigue. Of course, you can look at the gut. I feel like this is such a great one as well. Being able to show not only like, hey, take this quiz, find out, but then I'm going to follow up with an email showing you and giving you a taste of what it's like to work with me, the level of information that you can expect. Being able to give somebody this and set the stage for that mini transformation, you're going to help your ideal client say, wow, I never thought of this maybe as like food sensitivities. I never thought of, these different tests that I could take, or, wow, I should do, comprehensive stool analysis. We all know that, but our client doesn't know. They know these words, but they don't understand like what steps. They're just so overwhelmed, like so many of us. So I would actually look at which one would be the best, of course, in a quiz. That would be the quiz on the front of my site. And the truth is that one quiz can be the entry, but you can do, and I'm going to speak, of course, this to Nolan. I would do the 5-day gut challenge, the 5-day gut health challenge. Why? Stay with me, homies. Person's coming in, you're giving them the quiz. Boom. You can either bring them into doing that lab as a follow-up, or if you're not so much on the lab part, and you want to have materials for them to be able to access for 5 days. So that's 5 email opportunities. That's 5 opportunities to either bring to a discovery session, a low cost offer, lead to a membership. So I feel that the biggest disconnect is that people know gut, but they don't really know it. And so I would say this would be a great one because, again, you have the 5 emails done and you have 25 pages. So a lot of people ask, well, how do I put a course together? A course is literally you mini teaching on elements, and of course, including that video so that your client starts to experience what that transformation would be. Yeah, a lot of people know about gluten. If your signature process is you are grain-free, or you are paleo, or you've got this hack that you've been doing, or you're macrobiotic, or you found this really cool bread, or you make this really cool bread, that's part of what you want to share, because that's part of you showing that transformation. Secondly, take a probiotic. Biggest question my clients had was, when do I take it? It says, take it with food. Should I take it without food? Should I, drink it? Should I take my probiotic with my other supplements? Actually get down and dirty. Talk about the system that you use in your business. For me, I love Microbiome Labs. That's one of our probiotic systems. We rotate. We do a four-day rotation with different probiotics because of our multiple diagnoses in our family. And so that would, of course, be something I would share about. Why? Because in teaching the signature process, it isn't just teaching the gut. It's teaching all the stuff that you do and that you've compiled to be able to help your ideal client see that you are the person. And for those of you listening to this, I'm showing the 5-day gut challenge because day 3 talks about getting cultured. Well, of course, I would share Inner Echo. I would share all these cool things that I found for all the kids I worked with. I would, of course, speak to the mom because I know she's either there for herself or she's looking for her children, because there are some, food intolerances, early diagnosis of gluten intolerance, maybe heavy metals, or, the persona and the problems that, of course, my ideal client was struggling with. Maybe their kids had yeast infections, parasitic infections, heavy metals, like my own children. And so she's just overwhelmed. So right here, I've got all that information. And then how do you eat clean? So right there, I would say one could be its own standalone course. One could, of course, be a real signature series. We call this an indoctrination series because you have your emails all set out. You can go in and edit instead of creating new. And for those of you who haven't worked with a copywriter, the average price for a copywriter is anywhere from 50 to 150 plus per email. And so that would be my second one, because I could have the gut challenge, gut mini course, crash course, get gutsy course, gut transformation course. And I could use that independent, or I could also pair that with the quiz, or all my freebies, which would be one on detox, adrenal, gut. They can start to tie together by using one quiz that you're asking people before maybe they even enter your freebie. So that one that we said about gut or chronic fatigue would be great. I'm going to also pull up one that I love, Detox in 15 minutes. I did this because my ideal clients, detox in 15 minutes. My ideal clients had every objection too. I can't do this. I worked with spazzy people like myself. Any of my clients, of course, see this. I love you. Loved seeing you guys with Rachel's Wellness, but they were people like me. I'm not going to attract somebody and they're not going to want to work with me if they are not a high energy doing kind of personality, overthinker, analysis paralysis kind of person, gut issues probably when they were young, a high standard kind of person, a A-type personality, past maybe like trauma and stuff that have kind of created that that personality. That was my person. And so my person always said, I have no time for this. Like they're the person that says, I have no time for self-care. I have no time. I'm already feeling crazy. So I taught on this constantly, like 15 minutes a day. That's all I need from you. And so I wanted to teach people that this doesn't have to be difficult, and to show my ideal client that when you roll with me, I'm going to make it doable for your life, and that it doesn't have to be complicated. So for me, this was a no-brainer in my pitch deck. So that's a workshop. Plus, we even have this guide, not only in Word, but in Canva. It's freaking stunning. Stun balls. That's how I say for today's morning. It's sick. I mean, when I look at this, because this can be a freebie by itself. So imagine, Nolan, person opts in for your detox. This is really hitting that pillar. You use the PowerPoint after to make a little masterclass. All a masterclass is, guys, is a little longer of a class. Sorry, had to get my water. A little longer of a class, and you're really intensively teaching on that class so that you're further enhancing the possibility for your ideal client to understand why this is so beneficial for them. And because for those of you stuck around or it came on the first part, we know that it's imperative to teach our pillars: gut, detox, self-care, adrenal fatigue, and chronic fatigue. Doesn't mean that we can't talk about other things, skin, food allergies, but these are going to be our core pillars so that we don't deviate from that. If we deviate and we want to talk about fitness or metabolism, we're just talking about that for information, but we're always relating it back to fitness when you have adrenal fatigue, fitness when maybe you have gut issues, like maybe doing yoga or maybe doing qigong, things that, qigong is one of my favorite things because it helped to activate the kidneys. And so when in your process, not in my process, but yours, when you know why you do certain things and you can start to make these connections, like all these little problems, this then becomes also talking points on your social media. The content that you buy from us, also, this could be a screenshot. You could also, of course, resize this and have information for your social media account. Giving also a virtual assistant this and asking to make an infographic is super easy. Or if you're like many of the coaches that are massively skilled, so be it. That was not my zone of genius, and it still isn't. So that's why it's much easier to be able to give people that information. So I would look at, yes, detox. I've hit the chronic fatigue, adrenal. And then if we really want to talk about, self-care, a lot of people have bought this self-care habits protocol, but let's say that I want to talk about, what is this? This is the hormone program. Let's say I want to, of course, do gut, self-care gut. So one is that we can look at the Master Your Gut Health Workshop. I can also look at the modules for gut and see which one is going to give me exactly what I need to make sure that I can teach my process through everything. So 6 powerful strategies for gut might be another one that I want to look at. And in making my decision on my free offers, look at the one that's going to give me the best bang for my buck. I can use this in multiple ways. I have a PowerPoint and I have a freebie. To me, that's a no-brainer. It also allows, if I'm doing a workshop, to give a follow-up freebie. Hint, hint. You send a replay. You're like, hey, here's a replay. And I wanted to be able to collect emails because I'm going to be sending you additionally like a free guide. Or for those of you who want to drop your email, in my free group, I'm going to be sending out a guide. You can send a personal email. You don't want to send it en masse. But you can send a personal email like, hey, this is what I experienced. This is why I teach what I teach. If you want to click here, get on this list because next month I'm doing this other class. You could also, of course, look at essential how to fix healthy gut lifestyle. If we go here, looking at this PowerPoint and saying, does this teach what I'm talking about, like lifestyle and daily action tips? Or do I really want to get more specific? And I'm just going to give an example. If it is autoimmune, or if it's hormones, doesn't mean that you specialize in hormones, but you're making that connection for your ideal client. If hormones is a hot topic for them and it's one of those things that you want to incorporate, then of course you can look at one of the individual modules, because I'll show you this one in a second on adrenal. You could of course look, now that's how to handle flares, 30 ways. Sorry, we have a lot, guys. I'm going to just give you one, autoimmune. 30 habits. So maybe this really ties in for you, Nolan, and you can go in and just change the autoimmune to be gut, and I'm going to show you why. So there's an entire PowerPoint that talks about 30 habits for thriving with an autoimmune. You're going to see that this can be 30 habits for thriving when you've got gut or adrenal, because content, of course, when you're looking at flipping around these words, come on, Dropbox. You'll see right here. We're talking about immune. We're talking about getting a baseline, and this is in the guide as well. So again, you have another thing that allows you to have a freebie, also allows you to have a workshop that really is showcasing these habits in our life and what we can actually, do, these action steps to be able to take care of our health and to have the life that we want. I look at this as applying really to almost any niche, because it's 30 habits that we often forget about. And we put this together because my writer and myself, who have struggled with gut issues, she had thyroid cancer, lot of other issues that a lot of us experience, multiple diagnosis. It's often our habits. We all talk about that. So for me, and I'm going to make sure this is really clear, Nolan, is this could also touch on the self-care part. Change this around, of course, to be about gut, keep the immune, have people do a baseline, pull this quiz out, and you could even have that as an extra handout. I mean, this is a jam-packed freebie. So, of course, we've laid the foundation for our different freebies. A lot of stuff that, of course, we all talk about. You could even make a little calendar for your client. And then when I think about paid offers, option number one is that you look at a seasonal detox if that's important to you. Seasonal detoxing is important to me, which is why we have our seasonal detoxes. But if you're doing more of paleo, this can also be a detox. So when you're thinking about what is at the next, think about what you teach. Is it detox based on the elimination diet? Is it a paleo approach? Is it that, for specifically this, I would say I love the 30-day gut fix. I think it's just an unbelievable. And if you feel that inflammation is the higher engaging topic with your client, with your potential clients, when you ask or you do a poll hey guys, are you more interested in learning about inflammatory markers? Are you more interested in a roadmap to fix this gut so there's not inflammation and learn about self-care? You might want to look at this program because it gives you the 4R system. And it also is going to talk about leaky gut. It's also going to talk about, the daily action steps that we need to take, because look how freaking cool these workbooks are. So we have a stress workbook here that can be for the adrenal and the chronic fatigue. Also, of course, looking at this even as a freebie. So that's how I create offers. I know this was a little longer than I anticipated, but I thought, why not kick this Monday off? I've been wanting to do a podcast on this process. How do you create a step-by-step system? How do you really step into ownership? Because the mindset part of what I talk about all the time is there's no amount of perfect roadmaps or blueprints or, different strategies. What's really important for the mindset part is that you're really clear on why you do what you do. And in that clarity is going to be able to allow you to let go of the fear and the overwhelm, because you're going to have it. You're going to be scared. You're going to want to poop your pants when you pitch to somebody. You're going to feel like you're going to throw up when you do your first talk. And for some of you guys who are pure extroverts, maybe that's not, exactly true. But I am a kind of extroverted personality with a lot of anxiety about, am I going to fail? Is it perfect? Hence why you see my fuck perfect pillow in the back, because I need to remind myself all of the time that perfection is the number one disease that I have, and comparison syndrome. So just remember, the mindset isn't just because we manifest and we do affirmations and I am statements. It's that we have to actually step into what we teach and own it. And that means that you have to start believing you are really the only one that is perfect for your ideal client. And the clearer that you are on why you do this, and the clearer you are, and I'll recap today, in creating your different boxes and your pillars. Some people call them buckets for social media. Those boxes and those pillars and those buckets help you to really clarify what you're going to be talking about, how you're going to be communicating to your client, no matter what platform you're on. Even if you're at a fundraiser and somebody says, oh, what do? You're not going to say, Nolan, no offense. I'm saying this with love, because I said the same thing. My first copywriter, Hillary Weiss, said, what do you mean you help people balance their gut and detoxify their body so they feel better? And it was in understanding in that painful process, in that first 2 years, that I realized if I didn't get clear, I would never be able to support my family. I would have to go back to commercial real estate, and I would just stay in the failure zone. I was making a little money, but that was because I worked really hard and put myself out there. But that was also the mindset part. The messaging is what I hope you got from today's training, is that it's not always the perfect elevator speech, is you really understanding what you want to talk about that is different, because it's your own experiences, it's your own set of glasses, and that the way that you structure and teach about each one of these aspects is going to be different. I shared my story and parts of it so you understand how I got to my signature process and really, really owned it. But we don't get to having consistent money. We don't get to consistent conversions if we're not consistently clear and going back over this process of like, okay, well, I've been talking about gut, but just as Nolan said when we first started this, inflammation was a biggie. He's going to then test with the freebies, test also in asking polls, whether it be on Instagram, Facebook, finding 5 people who are your ideal client and asking them, if you were to be able to wave a magic wand today and say, I want this issue to be gone, do you feel like it's more inflammation? Do you feel like it's more gut issues, such as inflammation markers, such as if you were looking to, go through a transformation with somebody like myself, would you be more interested in a step-by-step anti-inflammatory program? Would you be more interested in a gut program that is based on the 4R approach? What degree and level of your gut issues do you have? Then, of course, asking, have you experienced chronic fatigue in your life? Has anyone ever in your family been diagnosed with adrenal fatigue? Do you know what this word means? Do you even know what chronic fatigue? Chronic fatigue looks like the following. Adrenal fatigue looks like the following, and you may get a diagnosis from your doctor because, per the work of Dr. Wilson or Dr. Lamb, this is what adrenal fatigue is, or Chris Kressler or Terry Walls. And then saying to your client, a huge component of what I believe and what really worked for myself to get better was this massive self-care, because I am an overdoer. An overdoer tends to not breathe as much, tends to eat on the go, tends to, not detoxify as well. This is a huge part of my business and what I teach. Does the word detoxification scare you? How busy are you in your day? Do you ever find that you stop and take time, to actually carve out self-care rituals? What does that actually look like in your life? What are some of the self-care rituals that you do? And starting to really get a key understanding of your ideal client avatar, the problems they have, and most importantly, how you can shine, in your business, in your confidence, in your process, and how you can start to make tweaks to the verbiage, fill in the holes in, per se, your system funnel, which is really you teaching, nourishing, and taking everyone baby steps to your paid offer. Paid offer doesn't matter whether it's a retreat, a membership, VIP day, a masterclass, one-on-one, do it yourself, course, group. This is the fundamental of everything. Fundamental. And so I wanted to deep dive. Like I said, didn't anticipate that this would be longer, but this really turned into a step-by-step class on how I develop signature systems and processes, and how I can tell you, when I did this for myself, when I help my clients to identify this vicious cycle, and we will close with this, really close with this on another envelope. When you see that your signature process is a vicious cycle. So what I'm doing is I'm taking another envelope. I'm a very visual person. Many of us are very visual. And I think that it also helps to take the overwhelm out of, does this sound perfect? Is this the right offer? But helps us to see what is this ongoing vicious process that actually we have to demystify for our client, hence your signature process. So if we see that ultimate, I'm going to do the ultimate transformation, is this happy face in the middle. We're going to call this like step 5, the ultimate transformation. Because if we think about our hero journey, and I know we're covering a lot, but you guys are brilliant and you deserve to have this information even for free, so you can understand that it's not as complicated. See at the top of this envelope, and if you can't see it, I've made 5 boxes. Each of these are going to be signature steps. Terry Walls, I interviewed her on my podcast, Healthy Hustle. We talked about this specifically. This is how I teach. This is how Terry Walls teaches her students. So please understand that this is not a new idea. Stu McLaren teaches this. Russell Brunson, James Wedmore, Marie Forleo. But we dilute it because there are so many fancy platforms that we think that's going to get us hired. Oh, ClickFunnels is going to get me hired. Kartra is going to get me hired. Kajabi, they're all great platforms, but what gets you hired is you understanding how your business is a game changer for your ideal client with these key set of problems. So think of it like this, and go back and listen to the Terry Walls. Step 1 for Nolan might be detox. Step 2 may be gut. Step 3 could be self-care, or see how step 1 and step 3 could swap based on what you feel is the necessary step 1. And then the 4 is really working on that adrenal. It doesn't mean that you can, of course, if you're working with somebody, let's talk about what it's really like when you coach one-on-one, or you coach in different aspects and models of your business. It doesn't mean that it always has to be that exact steps. If you're working with somebody and the And yes, you believe in detox, but like the adrenal fatigue is like the most glaring, and that's their biggest problem. And I'm going to flip 4 to 1, but I'm still going to know I have to touch on each of these in my signature process with this person, highlight these, of course, in, my programs that I have, so that it solves those specific problems. And it gives somebody a roadmap to understanding that this is not going to be a forever thing. I'm going to teach you the tools. I'm going to give this toolkit. I'm going to empower you and help you advocate for yourself when you are come against all these different, problems that we have when we're navigating what are the missing steps in our health. So if we see the happy face in the middle, which is step 5, I'm going to then put 1 pillar, detox, self-care, this adrenal and chronic fatigue, this adrenal connection. See right here, I'm showing you a picture where there's arrows, because if what we're saying with Nolan's business, if Nolan teaches on these and really helps his ideal client to understand, hey, your hormones and your adrenal and your cortisol, it's a hot mess, and maybe you're gaining weight because of this chronic adrenal fatigue connection. And I truly believe that has to do with the gut being in a healthy state, hence known as the microbiome, and that there needs to be XYZ, which is what you believe. I shared I love microbiome, and I have a bunch of other prebiotics, colostrum, probiotics. That's part of my system. What is your system? What do you actually do behind the scenes? That's what your ideal client needs to not only hear and understand, but needs you to understand the discovery session. I just did a 2-part how to create your discovery session process, handle objections on Healthy Hustle podcast, which is at rachelafeldman.com, or of course you can go to iTunes. So what Nolan is saying is, we're not going to be able to achieve this if we also don't learn how to rewire what self-care is, because I work with high performance. I work with people who are overachievers and, really have high standards. And if we don't focus on this, but we fix the gut and we fix, the adrenal components, and we get, maybe IVs on board for glutathione and B vitamins and, every different thing that you need for healthy adrenals. If we just keep filling and filling, then we're still going to come back to this missing component. That's why my 3-month program is designed like this. And to close that out is, then you might want to look, Nolan, or any of you that are watching this, at, oh, wow. So that's how you sell a 3-month program, is you're really in that 3-month program, even if it's a program like Revive, our 3-month stress program, or if it's a program like Mindset Makeover, a 3-month, or it's a program that is like Retune Your Hormones. If this was somebody that we were doing for hormones, that is going to embody those other steps. All you have to do is accentuate it, or within your program, look at something like adding one of those protocols, on self-care. It doesn't mean you have to, buy every different program. But what really makes a signature program unbelievable is it is solving these problems, and it's showcasing that your higher ticket embodied these steps. So maybe for some of you, that higher ticket is a 6-month. Maybe for some of you, that higher ticket is a 12-month membership mastermind with you, where somebody pays $597, $497 a month, and you have 10 people. Maybe it's $997 a month. Whatever these pricing is, what you'll start to see is understanding your signature process is going to help you to define what is your higher ticket, higher touch. What are your low cost options for that person who may be hesitant, jaded, have financial issues. If they're the right client for you and you want to work with somebody in a 30-day, look at that 30-day program like the 30-day gut fix. That next tier could even be a 3-month program like the stress program, but extending it for another 3 months, or maybe it's a 2-part where you start with the stress and then you end with the adrenal fatigue program. You can combine programs. The whole thing about having programs is simply saving time in your signature processes. So that means if you're working with somebody, of course, one-on-one, you have like at a click, all these handouts that you can use. If you're doing this in a group capacity, you're simply saving time by making your process a no-brainer. And that means that you are, again, we'll recap this, super clear on who you serve, super clear on the signature process that is going to separate you from everyone else. And then furthermore, what is that hero journey that you're taking them through, free to paid, which showcases your paid offers. And then lastly, be also really honest. Yeah, be also really, I don't even think that makes sense. Be really honest with yourself on what is the best model for you. I've been saying this a lot, and I just want to close out today with explaining what that means. If you're a brand new coach and you're not getting traction online, it's probably not the greatest idea to just do an online program right away. It may be really smart to build up your authority, get used to coaching people one-on-one. Maybe you're the person who loves groups and you've always envisioned it, and you're great at list building online and you've gotten traction. Wonderful. Maybe you also are better at group coaching. Some of you have niches that require one-on-one. Some of you have been able to take that niche, very sensitive topics like trauma and PTSD, hormone infertility, and do it in a group nature because you're really comfortable in your signature process, like Dr. Body, who was really clear in her signature process, but she didn't have a program. Once she bought the 21-day hormone detox, it was a no-brainer, and she started clocking pain clients each week. Some of you are not as clear in that signature process, so you're halting your success, not because you're not doing the other things, because you're not clear. And in that lack of clarity and ownership, you're vibing then the wrong vibe to attract your ideal client, because your ideal client to convert needs you to really be in ownership, not like, oh yeah, I mean, I think enemas are good, but you're like, enemas are good because this is what it did for me, or this is based on, the Gerson therapy. Like, this is why I'm all about them. Just really own what you are and don't compare yourself to anyone else. And the last part is when you have that clarity, intuition comes in. Intuition is the thing that I built my business on. Nobody can figure out how I built a business as a solo entrepreneur with no plan. But I sat there and said, if I could go back in time and speak to the old me, speak to my mom, speak to my Grammy who died of a bleeding ulcer, what would I have wanted to say? Teach. How can I change the game for somebody else that maybe had very similar issues like myself? Or how can I change the game for a husband worried about his wife searching, or for, a wife worried about her parents? I really thought within my content, who am I speaking to? And who do I feel is my ideal client? And when we embrace that intuition, we start to be able to build our signature offers without fear, without questions. Like, is this going to be right? We're so clear, like, this is my process. I'm going to detox, either based on the elimination diet or seasonal, or I'm going to have a paleo program because I know that I can get that mucus out. That was my baseline. I knew that from that baseline, somebody was either going to come to me with glaring skin issues, psoriasis, unexplained rashes, angioedema like I had for myself, blood sugar. There was going to be a host of issues, but I knew at step 2, which was my gut program, I could resolve a crap load. And then, of course, with my food allergy ones, there's always personalization. And so I used a combo of my 2 above programs and then my gut. I brought in the adrenal fatigue because I worked with a bunch of people like myself. I told you guys, and I'll just mention it again, my zone of genius was reaching out to people locally and doing partnerships with them and pitching to them, scared, but saying, these are the programs I've developed. I can come in and we can create a relationship, a joint venture partnership. In addition, I knew that that would build my referral network. There's only so much that we can do when we're not doing paid ads. It's the truth. We have to be really smart about where we are building our referral network and doing the hard thing. The hard thing is going and putting ourselves in and taking the chance to pitch to podcasts, taking the chance to pitch to places that you want to get in front of there. And guys, nobody has it pitch perfect. I love that movie. Just watched three Pitch Perfect 1, 2, 3 this weekend. Love that movie because it's never going to be perfect, but we have to do it. And in that doing, we practice and we get better. So I put that adrenal fatigue program because so many athletes, I grew up swimming competitively. It's a big thing I do with my daughter who swims competitively as well. Make sure her adrenals are loved, make sure they were restored from me giving them such weak adrenals. That became another program. Then I had another program with was Candida because that was a huge part of my life, something I passed on to my children as well, something that I worked with parents, even pregnant mommies, postpartum, kids with a lot of allergies, diaper rash, which is a crap load of, yeast, unfortunately, diaper rash, all that stuff. And then, of course, women like myself who had struggled their whole teenage years, chronic, UTIs, chronic candida infections. And I thought, for anybody that, of course, needs to go to a doctor, which I believe, we need to work with practitioners that are in alignment and will be open-minded and will work in collaboration. So that's why I had that program. And then, of course, anybody that worked with me did testing with the people that I created joint relationships with so that we could create referral for each other. Those programs, I share that with you at the end of this because that was my why. There were, of course, other programs that I used. That's why I created Mindset Makeover, because I had that epiphany that, I really had to work on my own inner critic and mindset. And so that was a part of, the programs that I had in my business. And I knew who they were the right fit for. Know who your programs serve, know who you serve and who you're not a good fit for. And think of every free offer and workshop, as I did this week in my membership call. Think, what is the goal of this freebie? Who's it for? What is the follow-up conversation? That's all a follow-up funnel sequence is. It's a conversation. And unfortunately, sad to say, I've seen us deviate from this a lot. I've seen us replace platforms and strategies that all work, thinking that that's going to replace a connection or the need for that person to get to know you. They have to get to know you and the signature tidbits that you're sharing to be able to hire you. Because the truth is, there are tons of people all saying the same thing, but you are different. And what you do in your detox practices today, we talked about this gut, adrenal fatigue, self-care, they're going to be different from me. The products I use, the habits, how I look at it, how I position it, how I talk about adrenal. It's not the same as a functional medicine practitioner. It's not the same as another, like one of my admins, Sarah Lawrence, who is a total geek on the science part of it. I'm not going to be her. And the same you can see for even one of our, big success stories, which is Megan Rand and Dr. Alex, who have Zesty Ginger. You can hear them on my podcast as well. They both are totally different. They're both totally different in how they teach about healthy hormones, repairing your period. And thank God they're totally different. And Megan even said this, And Dr. Alex even said this in their interview is, you know, Megan looks at it for more from the emotional and the adrenal and the soul and the inner critic and the self-care. And Dr. Alex like geeks out on the brain health. We have to all be different. And so I say this to you because you are your funnel. It's a conversation. It's your hand reaching out to somebody and saying, hey, this freebie is really going to change your life. And these are the reasons why. So I'm glad that you guys love this today. This training seriously just came because I saw this question in our free group, Nolan, and I said over the weekend that I would do a video response. And when I started doing this video, I thought, take them through the whole process. Help them see the potential and see that this is easier than we anticipate. We often complicate it because, of course, we're starting a business. And many of us have not had those skill sets. And even if we've started even if we were in sales or, a business before, I do believe that when we step into the health and wellness space, we have to realize that holistic entrepreneurs, there's no separation in a way between what we do in our life to our business, because I'm not selling you a toxic-free organic lip care. I'm selling you a transformation. And I'm selling you that transformation not only on a free level, an awareness, but the only reason that somebody's going to opt into my stuff is because I am helping that person to connect these dots that they feel terribly overwhelmed in. So just remember, step into your ownership, re-listen to this today, download, one of our workbooks, like our 60K, 85, 100K workbook, and do the work really thinking about what do I need to teach, the why of it, and be honest with yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, do the work. Do either Tony Robbins, Mel Robbins, Les Brown, step into that leadership role. It doesn't matter if you're an introvert or an extrovert. You have to really know your why and your purpose and your mission here. And if you don't, just give yourself a little permission slip, to take a breath and then come back ready to play the game. Come back ready to go to the Super Bowl, because that really is it every day. So guys, it's been an honor to be with you. And this was a longer one. This, in essence, is a masterclass for those of you who have been here the whole time. And with that being said, I'm going to peace out. And I hope that you guys have a phenomenal day. Let us know how we can help. And I'm look forward to getting to know all of you better. Bye, guys.